favor? Carried unanimously. Unanimously, thank you. That's what I call it. That question, Omar?
Yeah, so if you look at the OAD criteria, if you do a TFS to identify the board honorarium and all that, is that going to be standard to be amalgamated to one? The way they have it here, administration, health planning management, is that where the board? Is that where the board?
That would be a question for Jeannie.
Operations are, yeah.
So Jeannie, Omer has a question on board.
Boards and the way TFS presented their board travel. And
They don't have the same agreement. There's a different agreement. So that's the whole difference of this.
because I imagine OEA will probably follow their board.
The agreement that OEA is under is the 10-year grant. It's a completely different agreement from OCN CFS. So that's where that item dictates. I have all of the working papers for our 10-year grant, which we're at $40 million this year. So those are some things that we have more flexibility within those.
Yeah, no, I think what I was trying to ask you though, is with this budget that was presented, it didn't show board travel.
It will not in that manner because they're different agreements. So that's the whole reason why.
I know what he's asking.
Yeah.
Okay, so what Omar is asking in regards to the board travel, so what we do is we identify that under the health planning. So when you go to the health planning, you'll see the board individually, and she'll have a copy of all of that. And I did review it with the finance committee individually and the OHA board of directors.
I got a question there, or maybe a comment. I believe what we need to do is, we need to take a look at all the standardization, your mileage, your roof rates, your honorariums, we need to look at all that for each entity. So we know what standardization means.
Yeah.
What everybody's getting. And if it's not standardized, then it's not standardized, right?
Right.
But we need to see black and white for ourselves. I haven't seen it myself. We talk about it, but there's a communique here that's broken down. So we need to see black and white to say this is what standardization is.
Most definitely, we'll definitely get you that information in black and white and clearly, easily to read. And if there is any further questions or something that needs to be added to that list, we will definitely bring it back to the table. Right now, what we have done is there's been some differences regarding, say, vehicle mileage, because depending on usage, where some nurses have to do home care every day, or say a housing equipment manager has to go back and get parts frequently, whereas somebody such as myself, I drive to the office, I come back, so why would I be getting vehicle mileage or allowance? So there is some of those discrepancies based on usages, but some of the ones that we were able to capture was board honorariums, meals, and travel. Like for 48 cents per kilometer and such like that. For travel claims going to Winnipeg or conferences, not vehicle allowance or cell phone allowance is another discrepancy where we have.
So are there Christmas time? Remember how we said it's gonna be standard across the board? Is that the same amount?
$200
$200 for
Yeah.
members?
And that's the one that we also agreed on as well. For a incentive, I guess that's what it was called.
I just want to follow up on that. I heard a comment out in the public, and again, this is rumor mills compared to what's actual. There was someone saying that the board members of OHA got $1,000. I don't know if you guys heard that. Can you speak to that, if that was real or not?
Yeah, that's real. It's not a rumor. We did get $1,000 each. The board, nothing was standardized yet, and the board felt that they were entitled to the $1,000 each. They did do a lot of work and a lot of past meetings we did. You can see at the level where the Alaska Health Authority is now. Without the board taking their time and their overtime and so forth, doing what they have to do, we won't get the level we are now. We realize that the service that we provided to Alaska Health Authority is a service that's needed, and it's a service that required a lot of our time and attention.
Okay, thank you for verifying that, John. We'll come again, but I just want to have that out there because we need to move towards standardization. If some are paid lower, then we got to find that balance and make that right across the board. So we said last year that we would go to standardization. So again, it's up to you as leaders and board members and staff to make sure we do get that standardization effective as of this fiscal year. also acknowledging the fact, and I've heard this comment from the CFS that the comment saying that they call me a dictator, certain staff there, because we're pushing towards standardization. If I'm a dictator because we're trying to make things fair across the board, then I guess I'm guilty of being a dictator to make sure everyone's treated equally and fairly. And I think I share that sentiment with all of our leaders at the table, that we want to get to that table. Because in the case of CFS, they're saying they're acting like a runaway group and that they don't report to anybody. We want to make that very clear that that will not be the case. They've got to fall in line with standardization right across the board. They may hate the fact that they've got to go with standardization, but we've got to make sure it's fair and equitable across the board for every board member, every committee member, and for the staff that's on it with those rates, that we will get to a universal standard rate. That was it. John?
Two things. First of all, the standardization. I believe what we need that in writing ASAP. Okay?
Can I have on that, John? Can we have that by Tuesday?
The second,
But we're gonna verify that on Tuesday and get that fully implemented, and that it is part of this overall budget going to be fiscal year for everybody.
okay, the second part to this is, we're standardizing. Again, there's 5 entities of 2 BDA and PBDC, economic and whatever. But we have to realize that Alaska Cree Nation as a whole, we're service providers. And if CFS is saying those kind of things, I think, it has to be addressed, or it's going to keep, or those attacks are going to keep coming. Again, they ought to understand they're operating on a Alaska Cree Nation land. We got the jobs. Unfortunately, it has to be at the cost of our children in OCN. But at the same time, we are service providers. Every single one of us, from U to B, to the membership that we serve, same with them. They're service providers, and the service that they provide, it's something that they're not any better than me. So that standardization that we're asking for, it should be everybody, and not taking shots at us politicians, because this should have been done long time ago. We're phases. It should be done within just this year. But it's something that they have to understand. Maybe that little change that we're promoting is a little too much, but at the same time, I encourage that change. But at the same time, with that change that we're doing, we might have to slow down some areas, because maybe we're doing a little too fast and we're missing stuff like this. So it's something that we need to be aware of. We need to take a good hard look at that. Thank you.
Thank you for that, John, and that's going to be to the due diligence of management and the FAC, and ultimately the nation as we move forward. Again, very clearly something to make it fair right across the board. That was it. Any other questions? Oh, Bill, sorry.
I was just going to say, now that we're moving to standardization, I don't think it's fair that one board gets $1,000 and makes all the other boards feel less important. And we all have the same job in this community. We all give our time and our efforts, and it takes a lot of time away from our families and everything. And so I think giving $1,000 to a board member, a certain board, it's completely unfair, and it has nothing to do with standardization going that way. I mean, we gotta standardize it, and I don't think it's fair that you put us all into a bucket where we're not as important, and we're all working together in progress to progress OCN, not just the health sector, but we gotta look at every aspect of OCN. Everybody gives their time and their effort into forward. I think that was unfair to do that, and I don't know who approved it, to pay yourselves $1,000, or if the board approved it, or no approved it. I'm not sure where that was,
What's
how can it be?
Okay, we'll go to a John, but before that, I just had to verify that it was the board themselves that approved that, and that's sort of, again, we're gonna say that we can't have any runaway boards. If we're gonna be standardized across the government, we have to be standardized in respecting what that process and protocol is going to be going forward. So go to John, then to Karen.
I'll take that as a shot in the bucket.
Yeah, I've got.
At the same time, it's obvious that if you feel like you're worth what you're worth, then by all means make that assessment. But if you don't feel like you're worth that much, then stay where you are. But at the same time, like I said, we're service providers. We took a lot of time away from our founders also to where we are from where we were 5 years ago. We got 1.5 doctors in there. We've got mental services. We got 5, 6 different areas that we improved on. This has a lot to do with how we rolled our board and how we rolled the staff and how we pushed our staff. So it's something that's that's unique in a way. How each board operates is it's open country. But we knew that our board deserved it. It came a long way from where it was. I'm not taking anything away from Rhonda, but it was something that we took a different direction, and it's something that like I said, it needs to be standardized. Let's standardize it, put it in black and white.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to do. So I've asked Nicole to present that through the support of FAC at that meeting next Tuesday, that we have that implemented across the board. And it's not taking anything away from anyone. This is our opportunity as we're evolving. And I agree with Dale 100% in regards to the fact that we've got to make that fair across the board. So that if anything like that is going to be approved, it can't just be there. It's got to come to FAC for approval and then ultimately to ONO, similar to how we're doing this budgeting process. So that any amendments made, we respect that going forward. Go to Karen and then to Vice Union.
I just want to say that I'm worth $1 million, but I know you don't have money that much to pay me. But what I wanted to point out is.
$2 million.
What I wanted to point out is we're coming up with all these policies and these laws, financial law and that. We are obligated to follow them, right? But who's going to police the branches when they're breaking policy? Such as that case where they decided that they deserve more. We all do our go above and beyond in trying to do our work. And we followed what we were told, $200 for everybody. So how are we going to enforce when a branch doesn't follow it? That's what I want to see, because we put all these policies and these laws in place and we don't follow them, we break them. So what's the consequence? Why should we go through that exercise if nobody's going to follow it?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I wanted to put that out there, because of hearing that after effects, so we're seeing if it was true or not, and it is. So I think based on what we're hearing for the Finance Administration Committee, similar to how we're making amendments, that anything like that, if that's going to be something brought forward, it's going to be presented to the Finance Administration Committee, then brought forward to O&M for final approval or disapproval. But if that, what happens in one area has to be right across the whole department of Opaskwayak Cree Nation. So it's permanent, equitable across the board. So consider this lesson learned in that process as we move forward. But keep in mind, as someone said, we're moving, we're evolving, and we are moving at a good pace. So we just need to make sure we're not leaving anyone behind, or there's cracks in the system. We've got to fill those gaps in right away so that we have a solid foundation. Recognizing we're going to be FMB certified come March 29th in the next few weeks. JP, do you have a question? Or sorry, Vice Amiga. I thought I was here because you guys look the same. Go ahead, Vice Amiga.
I wondered if I could make a motion just to have that effective today, and to have it standard, and any repercussions for that is to recover the cost that goes above and beyond what's standard.
Okay, based on the fact that I'm going to respect due protocols and have that by your table at FAC, and then brought forward to 1.0 and have it on the agenda for next Tuesday. So we'll leave that to your table. If you want to make that motion, I'll hand it back to the Chair of Finance Administration Committee.
Good day, everyone. We do have a motion on the table made by Vice Mayor and Jennifer Flack. Do I have a motion?
That's for finance?
Finance, or is it for remote?
That's finance.
Finance, okay,
Can we
finance.
save this for next meeting? FAC, yeah, you can, and then just leave it for following after
Yeah.
that, follow policy, go through all the towns we need to go through.
Of course,
You could technically do it here because your board is here, FAC. That's why we're doing these other approvals of budget, so it's up to you if you want to do it here, because it'll hit the nail on head exactly what we're talking about, avoid what's happened at OCN.
yes.
So if you want, the motion's on the table, if not, you can table it until your next formal meeting. Yeah, I'd like to wait till the next meeting. So that the more details to it, and we might have other issues or whatever the case may be, but I think that we should discuss it a little bit more.
I asked that we pass a motion that we standardize across the board, and any entity that goes above and beyond what a standard rate would be for like from 200 to 1,000, if it goes above the 200, that we recover the cost of that. That it's completely understood at this point that it's $200.
Is that the Christmas item?
I believe, or whatever else it would be,
Anytime.
anytime. But if we're gonna go standard,
Any standard.
And your mileage, your hotels, your meals, your,
So the one, yeah,
your Christmas
so
bonuses.
the one that was passed in November, it regarded honorariums, staff appreciation, then travel. So those were the three items that we were able to standardize at that time because of all of the differences in usage of the areas for cell phones and vehicle allowance. Because there's, yeah. Yeah. So we had to revisit that one based on usage and looking at each of the different ways people use their vehicles, such as home visits or how many repairs they need to go to the store.
okay, it's getting timely, so we will
Yeah.
put it to the next meeting.
Okay. All right, so rescind the motion.
Yes.
You don't need to rescind.
Okay, just guys. Sorry, I'll get more training. Now we also have Jeannie moving on for the care home.
Okay, so now we're gonna do the McGill Care Home operating budget for 2019-20. So attaches the breakdown of the total revenue in the amount of $3,421,764 for the fiscal year 19-20 to be utilized for the operations of the Rodman Building Memorial Care Home. All funding was verified with the funding agencies and cross-referenced in the departmental budgets. For the 19-20 fiscal year, ANSI, ISC issues our funding on a monthly basis on the first of every month. It flows to OCN and then it goes to the branch. Each budget was verified and discussed in detail with departmental managers prior to submission. The operating deficit for the McGill Care Home for the 2019-20 fiscal year is a balanced budget. On December 18th, Val Cook presented the first reading to the OCN Finance Committee with the universal rate suggested for implementation across the board. On March 4th, the OHA Finance Committee reviewed in detail and recommended approval. On March 6th, the OHA Board of Directors approved the Rodman Memorial Care Home operating budget for the fiscal year 19-20. So the next page.
Jeannie,
Yes,
this number doesn't match the number in the front.
which one?
You're 3.421 and you have 3.674.
Okay, she adjusted her budget. Okay, so, yeah,
So the actual number, one on the budget, 3.674.
yeah,
We're not one on the budget.
yeah. So I just put up the wrong, so it's 3.674580. Okay, so with that. Okay, so the next page is the operating budget, and then the expenses are 3.674579. And one thing that we do between OHA and McGill Care Home is we cost share on the board meetings, and we cost share on the board insurance and
Travel, meeting, board, yeah, we included board and council, like $100 for summer membership, as well as life insurance for the board thing.
Yes. Then attached is the footnotes for each of the budgets.
Sorry. This one says 580 and it says 579. It's only $1, but.
Please don't penny pinch. It's just the rounding of formulas.
Okay.
Yeah. So attached are also the footnotes to correspond to each of the budgets. Any questions?
So McGill Care Home is not under the block funding, they have their own agreement?
No, it goes through OCN.
It flows through OCN?
Yes.
I don't see it in the block funding, in the 10-year
Okay.
grant.
Could be under the health.
No, it's not under the
It's
house.
not health?
It needs to be under the social authority.
Yeah.
Yeah, social.
Oh,
Social category.
Okay.
That's fine.
Just compare one or two.
Okay,
Under OCN transfer agreement.
Okay,
I just couldn't see it, yeah, okay, thanks.
any other questions? John Mascapo.
I'll make a motion.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, sorry, it's the finance committee first,
Is it?
Yeah, finance first.
then the board after.
So, for the Finance Administration Committee, recommendation that the Finance Administration Committee recommends ONO to make a motion to approve the Rod McGilvery Care Home Memorial Care Home operating budget for the fiscal year 2019-2020 with balanced budget. So I have Jennifer Flack, and then we also have Jennifer Faiz, seconder, all in favor, carried. Thank you. JP, oh, questions, JP?
With the OHA board and the McGill Care board, are they getting, two enhancements here?
That would be a question for,
That'd be a question for Jeannie, because I had included that $200 enhancements for the board.
So, sorry, what was the question?
The board members, are they getting two enhancements, one for the? care
No,
board?
they're not, so what we said is we cost share. So if they're getting $200, we invoice them for $100, their bill account, and they reimburse us half.
yeah, thank you, JP.
Okay, so again, replicating that, but it would be a motion made by, O&O, so moved by Anashigab John Mascapo, sent by Anashigab JP Martin, all in favor? Motion carried unanimously, thank you very much. JP beat you on that one, Edwin. Good job.
Thank you, now we're also gonna be announcing the EDC. I may have Ginger and Pam, join us at the front.
You want to introduce your new finance person? You're still mad at me?
Still bad. Now I have Pam Moniac here, so she's our VP or Director of Finance, so I brought her along to go through the motions, for her to have experience. Next year she'll be doing this. I asked her, do you want to do it? Do you want me to do it? So she said, no, you do it. See how I feel. So I'll go ahead and present for PBC. We do have Luana Leader as well. She's our controller, so I wanted to bring her and get her involved and see what the process is all about during our budget meetings. For us, our budgets are approved by our board by before December. So I know our fiscal year runs from January to December 31st. So it's different from OCN. Our budgets are already going through our first reading with our board, November 8th, December 7th, and then our final approval was on December 14th. So our board does go through each budget. I go through each budget with the managers, line by line, and looking at variances. We are a revenue-based corporation. We don't get no funding from anywhere except for our FDEV department, which is $300,000 a year, which goes to community initiatives, business development, our equity program, and so forth. Other than that, all our entities rely on revenues. So if you take a look, this is our budget for 2019, Kikiwakan. This year we are budgeting a net income of $22,330. That is a 20% drop from last year. Last year we budgeted $194,000. So our sales and revenue did decrease. We do rely on miscellaneous revenue, but we don't, when it does happen, but we don't account for it because it's not a for sure thing. So that's miscellaneous revenue is when we do have contractors that come through the area. And according to their contracts, they need to have an indigenous component to their purchases. So they'll use the shell to buy bulk fuel and they go through PBDC, so we get to recognize that revenue. Kikiwakan, our gross profit's about the same, so there's no really changes in here. If you take a look at what makes up this amount, 22,000. So there are a number of departments that make up PBDC, the 22,000. Okay, well, while she finds it, PBDC right now, so we do have an administration budget. Our net income is 62,759. A subsidiary to that is our gravel and concrete. So we are seeing a deficit of 52,000. Again, this operation is closed. It's been closed for about a year now. And so that deficit, we still are incurring costs even though it's closed. So you still have insurance, minimal hydro, property tax, whatever it may be that's being associated to that one right now. We do have a deadline of May 31st from our board to come up with a plan. Either we sell it, close it down for good, or we partner up and get it up and going again. Economic development is a zero balance budget. That's the funding that we do get from ISC to do those various initiatives. Payday loans, a net income of 11,000. So in total, because of the deficit from gravel and concrete, we're only going to see a net income for PPDC of $22,000. There, right here. So that's what makes up our 22,000 right there. So again, PBDC administration, we are climbing out of $1 million deficit. So right now we are at $632,000. So even though we are seeing a net profit, that goes towards our overall deficit. So it will take us a couple of years to climb out of that deficit. So if we can, is there any questions on this part? So if you want to go back to the main budget. I'll go back to Kikiwak.
While Ginger's bringing that up, just on a note, about 2 years ago, most of that was red ink. So you can see now the major improvements. We just got that one more to fix and maybe Knesset, but it's been a big turnaround in a matter of 18 months. So
I'll present Knesset as well. That'll be actually a first time that we've actually seen a budget. That'll be this for 2019. Kikiwak again, we're looking at a net earnings of 284,000. With the sales and revenue, we are seeing a 9% increase. The operating expenditures are actual less than previous years, but our net income from last year is actually up by 38%. Again, it's minimizing costs, keeping an eye on your costs, which you can control. Those out of our control, like property tax, hydro, and propane is a big one for us. But seeing where we can ensure that each department is contributing to the net income and increasing those sales. OCN Shell, you see a net income of 121,645. This is down by 63% from previous years. Our sales have increased, but also has our cost of sales. So our volumes are not meeting where they should be. Again, it's hard for the Shell to be competitive with town. When you got the cost of goods, we're charged more for our cost of goods. So if we buy it for 5 cents, town can buy it for 3 cents, and we have to up our margins just to be able to make that net profit. So it's hard for us to be competitive with town. Again, you're looking at the minus there, Sobeys. OCN Shell pays from its bottom line the loan to Sobeys. So we will be looking at that contribution to Sobeys for probably about 15 years, I believe it is amortized at. Unfortunately, that's one of the effects of operating a business, and losing business, being able to supplement. We had to make a decision, and someone has to carry that cost. Again, we have to make sure that operation makes money to be able to operate, pay its own expenses, make a revenue, and be able to pay that loan to FNFA. Otinike Development is at a net earnings of 358,000. That's a 22% increase from last year. Again, the mall is looking full. We do have 1 or 2 spaces that were vacant. Again, we do have net earnings or operating loss. So what we do is everything it costs to run that mall is billed back to the tenants. There may be a shortfall, which comes from our bottom line. And then we have our administrative expenses that are covered by rent. So we have to make sure, again, anything that's billed back to our tenants, that we have to make sure that we manage, because when they see increases, then they're phoning our office and saying, hey, what's going on? And that's where, again, uncontrolled costs that are out of our control. Hydro, propane, we see huge increases, especially hydro. Property tax, amortizations, insurance, stuff like that. but we do try and control those costs that we can. Sports traders, again, it's good to see a budget. We're hoping of 58,485. Last year, they were, we're looking at a loss for last year about $100,000. So again, if you recall, Sports Traders was operating in a footprint that was way too big for them. And they were incurring costs, deficits. What we're doing right now is we moved it, relocated, put it in a footprint that makes sense, minimize its costs, and now try and work on reducing that deficit while increasing our sales. Were you gonna say something?
No, we're just gonna get the motion going because.
Okay.
Oh, I wasn't sure.
Well, give me time. So for PBDC right now, we are looking at a total net earnings of 800,445. Again, we are revenue based. That is low from last year, I believe $100,000 less, but we are managing and maintaining what we can on our deficit parts. I do understand we do have, again, strategic investments, which I understand is not my money, but we do manage it on behalf of OCN, which is good to see that we are able to see investments which do help contribute to our admin fees and any costs that are incurred through those investments for OCN. Do I have any questions?
Just a point of clarity, when you look at the black ink on the bottom, I'll call it, what we did, if I can just make a note, Ginger. What we did with the team and making sure that you have outside expertise working closely with PBDC is bringing that knowledge to the table so that they can start to understand the bigger OpEx. And a lot of fundamental breakdown here was with the agreements that were made, locked in at 10 years with gas suppliers and whatnot. The unfortunate reality with OCN Shell is we should actually be making $750,000 to $1 million more, but because of that agreement, the way it is, it was a bad deal. Unfortunately, we're locked into it for 5 more years, Ginger. So once that, or 4 more years, once that we get out of there, we're gonna go to the supplier that we negotiate, that's supplying Vanessa, which is one of the best fuel deals in Canada. So that's negotiated with the team from PBDC. As well, what we discovered is PBDC was doing these services without any management fees to any of these companies in the past. It's the first time I ever came across that in my corporate dealings. So we made it a standard that any and all businesses they manage and run on behalf of OCN, they gotta get a 10% management fee within these structures, which is standard in any corporate environment. So that's where you're able to see the organization prosper going forward. And thirdly, there was a clash between PBDC and OCN leadership in the past. I don't understand why that was, but as of now, we're strengthening that so that we work together and write off bad debts to get it off the books once and for all. That will improve our ratios as a prospect and also allow us to move forward in the unison. We work together, not against each other. Because at the end of the day, when you take everything down to the bottom line, it's all OCN's resource anyways. That goes in. And I don't know why she's dressed like a little ninja.
Yes, no, that's what we're doing now.
All right, it did go through the FAC board already. We did a first reading with them and we did go through each budget line by line and so forth. And we did answer the questions and went forth from there. So we're just here at the final reading.
I just, more of a comment. Okay, the payment that we're making to OCN/Sobeys,
Yes.
that's due because we had to subsidize the Panasu gas station before, right?
With the Sobeys right now, that became because we made a decision to close the store. And in order to do that and get out of that Sobeys contract, which had another 7 years on it, we had to pay them what the contract said. If you want out, you gotta pay us the contract amount, which was, and all the debt with the contract, the money we borrowed from OCN to pay out the employees, which was over $500,000, and all those little bills that came with it was 2.7 million. That's where that came from. So I just want to, when you bring up that comment, which reminded me as well, PBDC still has 4.8 million of internal debt that we still got to write off, and that's from Panasu. That is still from IGA. That's from PCS. That's from the blizzards. And what we're doing right now is we are finalizing our audit probably by the first week of April, which we are actually going to make on time this year. Once we see that draft, we want to take a look at what our draft audit looks like and then see what the debt looks like as well, the write-offs, and making sure that we do it strategically so that we're not crippling our balance sheets. But at the same time, we're addressing that debt. There's 1.9 million, I'll say, just from the blizzard. We know we're never gonna get that back. So why hang on to it in the books? So those are the effects of all these past dealings that we still have to deal with. So you will still see, even though we are doing good, and that's the main thing, is making sure that we do have net incomes that we're in the black and ensuring we make smarter business decisions going forward. And if Pete can't pay his bills, well, John can't keep giving Pete money. You shut Pete down. You take a look at why he can't pay his bills, and those are the smart decisions we need to make and ensure we don't continue to put that overload on PBDC and its entities. That's money that should have been going to the community or somewhere, but that's going to pay it. So
on that note, Ginger, I know you guys have your preliminary audit. So how was your financial performance this past year? On a good note.
How well did we do?
Yeah.
Right now, we're unaudited. We're looking at 1.4 million altogether with all our entities. Unaudited. So which is good, it's again, we're doing well and ensuring we're as a revenue base, right? We're relying on that revenue and we have to really maintain our expenses. So yeah, that's what we're looking at right now, 1.4, so it is good. And that's again, working with those managers, working with those budgets, making sure that the expenses are tight, we're not overspending or anything. And again, we can look at, there's our number right there. 1.4, so that's unaudited to the end of December 31st. So right now you can see PBDC. So again, sales revenue. So what we make sure is, again, we are incurring a little bit for aerospace, Big E. We do have, who's on top there, sports traders. Again, it's making sure how we can get sports traders out of that deficit. Well, we gotta chase sales, we gotta increase revenues, we gotta look at marketing, and making sure our budgets are tight. Our expenses.
I have two questions. One of them is, where is your community enhancement fund? And where do you do your gas rebate from Shell? What was that from?
The gas rebate from Shell, I believe, goes right back to the Shell, right? The PFT? Yeah, it goes back to the operation. We do give the full 14, right, to the customer. We do give that full 14 to the customer. The Community Enhancement Fund is actually kept with kept with KikiWAC. I believe it's 145. As far as I remember, before that, it was like close to $200,000. So KikiWAC does collect that 5%, and they put it in a separate account, and that's OCN's fund to utilize for community initiatives. And I know we did have a criteria to put forward. So when groups or whoever it may be want to use that, it's for the community, right? Not just one specific group or person or anything like that. I believe KikiWAC has reported on their in their budget. Yeah.
Two things. One thing is first of all, I appreciate your numbers. I believe what Ligan did when he first dissolved that board, he started putting in business people with business sense and getting the politicians out there. It's the first big step that we have to take. Secondly, I keep harping on this every year, even at the last chief of council. Why do we have to give back that 14% to the people? Why can't we keep 1 cent or 2 cents or 2% of it and put it into our programs? So that's a question I ask every year. There has to be a way. It's our business. There's got to be a way. I asked about this in the first year of the last chief of council. That's 5 years ago. And then I asked about it with this chief of council in the first year of our governance. So, give some options, or what kind of options have we looked at, or if you looked at any?
All right, I know the Shell to answer that one. I know at one point, and with Councillor Omar Consett, it was brought up, and I was supposed to bring it forward again. They did take at one time 4 cents from OCN Shell to put towards housing. Customers noticed, and our sales went down. And when we went through the audit and said, okay, if we take 4 cents, or let's put it, towards what we need, right, housing. And yes, I hear you, yeah, it's something we can look at, and that's what we're saying, let's try small, so the customer doesn't really feel it, right? Because the customer wants their full rebate, so if they don't feel it, we do it in small increments, but you'll start to see a net loss if we start to pull those senses away from Shell.
You know why it went down? Because with the last chief of council, that the politicians that were sitting there, it was internally sabotaged. It was brought up by them that, we're taking money from the people. They put it out there, that message that, we're taking money from you, so we should be taking it from you. So it was an internal sabotage. That should never happen. Like I said, we're one here, we operate as one, we should stay as one. That's why I was trying to maintain that with this chief of council. But yeah, that was internal sabotage at that time.
Okay, just before we come to further to that comment, the key being that when we look at these deals, you gotta look at the agreements. So we looked at it, and unfortunately, we're locked into that OCN Shell agreement for 4 more years, 4 more years. And the fact being that even with that analysis done on the 4 cents to give back to the community, you can actually buy gas cheaper in town, even with our First Nation advantage. Because of that deal, it's taken away that advantage. So what we've done is, in negotiation with our new supplier for Peninsula, which is Henry, we actually have a caveat within that agreement that actually has one of the best fuel agreements in Canada, Junior.
Yes.
This is fair to say. And what I've asked PVDC to do is explore setting up a temporary gas station on OCN in a different location using that Henry agreement. And I'll guarantee right now, aside from like startup costs, operational costs, we'll actually come out further ahead financially on that setup of that temporary gas station, wherever it may be, so we eliminate that Shell deal, which tells you that was a flawed, bad deal right from day one. So we'll get past it, but the fact being, and no disrespect to leadership here, it's putting business people in the business environment. We'll support them from a lobbying side of it, where needed, where they're lobbying the industry or government, to allow them to do what they've been able to achieve in a matter of 18 months, that turnaround. So that's the culture, John. So unfortunately, we have to be patient with that deal for 4 years, but PPC will come with a strategy and solution on that Henry oil supply unit to set up a temporary facility, which will give us more profit and return on that going forward.
All right, if there's any more questions, go ahead.
I just wanted to add what John was talking about that housing contribution. My understanding was that money, that contribution was supposed to come from that gas rebate, not from the people, not adding to the pumps. But it was never,
Yeah.
it was never
Yeah.
really looked at.
No, it wasn't,
Be analyzed, and it never happened.
I do have all the background information. I know Councillor Constant did ask me to bring it forward and take a look at it again, and that's what I'll do again, to see, have a look at it, plug in the numbers and see what works. For sure, take a look at it and see what works and what we can do. Again, I'm operating under this agreement, it's tight, so, but yeah, we can bring it up and look at it again. So if there's no further questions on PBDC, I'd like to introduce your Peninsula budget. Oh, you want to go ahead and do a motion?
So, this is for the finance committee. I do believe I still have four. So the recommendation of the Finance Administration Committee recommend to O&O to approve the Pasadena Business Development Corporation 2019 budget with a combined net earnings of $845,923. First by Jeanette, second by.
Yeah, let's forget seeing JP with her. Sorry. All in favor?
And the chair can't move us your time. Yep.
Is that drive forward?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the four, I do, motion carried.
Just a show of hands, Finance Administration Committee up high, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the chair back there, so motion carried with your foreign president, thank you. Okay, the esteemed recommendation, mover by Anashikawa, moved by Anashikawa John Escapo, seconded by Anashikawa Dale Knudsen, all in favor? Motion carried unanimously. Oh, sorry, one abstention due to the relationship. All right, motion carried, thank you. John?
Just one correction.
Yes.
On that, it's not Peninsula, it's Venezuela.
Yeah, so, okay, yeah, and just a reminder here, we're gonna take a quick 15-minute break here, coffee break. And we'll reconvene right after this, usually carry on. Thank you very much. Enjoy.
We're done after this. We'll be done after this.
Oh, you want to do
So you wanna do it, we'll be done right after this.
it? Break, we have someone waiting, I gotta be.
We've been here all day. I need to break.
Okay, break 15 minutes.
You and Vanek.
And then,
What?